All right, we're going to go ahead and get started so we can make the most of this hour that we have together. Good evening or good afternoon. Hello, wherever you are. We're very excited to have you with us today, to our families. My name is Grace Sullivan Zirkle. I serve as the Associate Director of New Student and Family Programs, and we're thrilled to start our spring off with a webinar as part of our Duke Family webinar series. Today, the topic is Cultivating Academic Success. And before I turn over this session, I'm going to go over a few housekeeping things. Part of our session today, you all are going to be able to ask questions, and I know our presenters want to keep this as conversational as possible and really explain to families the academic culture at Duke and how we can support your student and you can support us and your student in your student's success. So if you have questions throughout this session, please feel free to put them down in the Q&A. You should see at the bottom of your screen, it says Q&A, and you can submit questions there. We will do our best to get through them and answer as many as we can. So with that, I am going to pass things over to Dr. Kimberly Bethea, our Assistant Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you so much, everyone, for being with us this evening. As Grace said, my name is Kimberly Bethea. I am one of the Assistant Vice Provosts in the Office of Undergraduate Education, and I have oversight for our Division of Student Success. It includes 6 units, and you're going to hear from 3 of those units tonight. Our division supports OUE's mission to provide every Duke student with a transformational undergraduate education. And I really view our division as being responsible for laying the foundation for our students to be able to access and successfully navigate the many resources that are available here at Duke. I want to make sure that you know we support all undergraduate students across all schools. And tonight, you're going to hear from representatives from our Academic Advising Center, our Academic Guide Program, the Academic Resource Center. You're going to also hear from a student who's part of our Peer Success Leaders Program, which is a collaboration of all the 3 units I just mentioned. And then we also are very excited tonight to have a colleague and academic dean from the Pratt School of Engineering here to help us address any questions that really might be specific to them. So I want to give my colleagues an opportunity to introduce themselves. They'll tell you who they are, their office, and a little bit more detail about what they do in their office. And so we're going to start with David Rabiner.
Thank you, Kim. Hi, everyone. My name is David Rabiner. I'm the director of the Academic Advising Center. I'm also a faculty member in the Department of Psychology and Neuroscience. Our office oversees academic advising for all Trinity College students from the time they matriculate up until the time they declare their major, which at Duke they do at some point in their sophomore year. So it's our office that assigns to each of your students their college advisor, which is the person that they work most directly with up until the time they declare their major. They'll be certainly meeting with them again during the upcoming registration period later this spring. Many of the sophomores will be meeting with their advisor in the upcoming weeks to go through the formal process of major declaration. Advising at Duke is done by a group of over 280 people that we call college advisors that come from every part of the university, from Trinity College, from the medical school, the law school, the business school. They volunteer to do this work because they are interested in supporting students as they transition to Duke, to helping students find the academic path at Duke that's right for them. And then in addition to our large volunteer staff of advisors, we have a number of specialized professional advisors in our office that focus on each of the main academic divisions, the arts and sciences, humanities, social sciences, natural and quantitative sciences. We also have specialized advisors that we call directors of academic engagement that focus on all the global and civic engagement opportunities. And your student can go onto our website, book a 1-hour appointment whenever they want with any of those specialized advisors who can help them really learn about what's most available for them at Duke in the areas that are of most interest to them. And they can also book an appointment anytime they want with myself, with our associate director, and with our senior advising associate. So in addition to their college advisor, they can connect with folks at our office really pretty much at any time that they'd like to do that. And that's it.
Thanks, David. Hi, everybody. My name is Debbie Hughes, and I am the Senior Academic Guide for the Academic Guides program. Our program is new-ish. We started in August 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. And so we are continuing to develop and heighten awareness around the Academic Guides program. I'll say more about what we are uniquely in a moment, but I'll say we are a group of 6 people that work on West Campus to support the whole student needs of students living in the residence halls. And Reed, I believe you're up next.
I believe I am. Good evening. My name is Reed Culper. I am the Associate Director and a Learning Consultant with the Academic Resource Center. We support undergraduate learning across all years, across all majors. We welcome students from first year through senior year, and we provide a range of services to help students figure out how they learn and how they can get the most out of their classes. Again, as Debbie just said, I'll share more about what some of those are, but we provide one-on-one consultations, peer tutoring, learning communities. We provide an opportunity to help students find other students in their classes to form study groups. And we are always creating new opportunities for students to find how they can learn and help them transition into Duke and get the most out of their education. So pass this on to Lupita.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lupita Temikel-McMillan, and I am one of the academic deans in the Pratt School of Engineering. The Pratt School has 3 undergraduate deans that work with our undergraduate student population. We're about 1,200 students, undergrads. And the academic deans follow the students in many different areas of their university life, I would say. We support all the students, and we follow them academically, whether it's tracking their academic progress, tracking your degree toward your major. And we also work with students who are in need of something extra. So if there are concerns going on, academic deans will help students with that. Along with just some specialty advising. So students sometimes have particular goals and aspirations in their academic careers here. So whether it's study abroad or whether it's multiple majors, whether they have to take a break from their studies, we work with students on making sure that their academic plan is seamless, no matter what their goals are or what their circumstances are. And that is pretty much what we do in the Pratt School. And I'll hand it over to Charlotte now.
Hi, everyone. I am a student at Duke, and I am one of the peer success leaders. And the peer success leader program utilizes peer support to provide a holistic approach to academic success, mainly through one-on-one interactions, programming, content creation, and campus outreach. And it's really about assisting our peers and fellow students to help navigate academic decisions, develop learning strategies, pursue purpose, and everything else where we can be a support for each other and help each other through all of these decisions.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for those introductions and sharing with everyone, letting them know is I have some specific questions that I will be asking everyone to share. You all learn a little bit more about services that we provide for your students. And we definitely want to give you an opportunity to ask us questions as well. So we're going to start out by me asking a couple of folks to just talk a little bit more about the really unique services that you provide. You gave us some brief overviews, but I think it'd be helpful for folks to know what's something really unique that you provide in your office. We're going to start with Reed, and then Debbie and David, if you would share responses to that question.
Absolutely. My initial instinct on this question is to say everything, which is not entirely true, but we do provide a lot of resources to students at Duke that they are not going to receive anywhere else at Duke. I think the one that is the most unique and provides the greatest value to students on many levels is our learning consultations. Our learning consultations. Learning consultations is an opportunity for a student to meet one-on-one with one of the learning consultants, such as myself, and talk about some of the challenges that they are experiencing in their learning. It can be everything from time management, which when we actually break it down, often encompasses many other things that may not necessarily be related to time management, but has to do with self-regulation, how to actually break up their studying so they're not trying to cram it 2 days before the exam, but maybe spread it out over time. Help them understand a little bit about how their brain works and how they can learn best. What are the strategies that are going to work specific for them? We bring in a lot of learning science into the conversations, but we really intentionally work with students to understand who they are and help them understand how they work, how they think, and what of the strategies they can implement to work best for them. So it's an individualized opportunity for students to really understand who they are, how they work. They can meet with us on one time and sort everything out, or they can meet with us periodically. Some students meet with us on a regular basis. Often students will come meet with us at the beginning of a semester, and then we won't see them again until the next semester because classes change, needs change. And so from semester to semester, the environment is different for students, and we are there to help support them and help them identify what they need to get the most out of their classes in a one-on-one situation.
I like going after Reed for this question because it expresses sort of the lineage or the lineage of the programs that we offer. Everything Reed described is work that students can do within the Academic Advising Center / Academic Resource Center. And it's profound and changes many students' experiences as students when they go to the ARC. And then what ends up happening for many students is they move to West Campus and they lose touch with that critical resource that they have found so important to their success as a student. And so the Academic Guides program is an effort to sort of expand the support that the ARC offers, expand support that the AAC, which David is going to describe in a minute, offers, and work with the PSLs, of which Charlotte is a member, to promote continued academic engagement among upperclassmen. So what is unique about the Academic Guides program is we bring a holistic view, which is to say we see the student as a whole person, and we provide academic support, well-being support, and advising support to the residence halls. So that's the critical piece here. And the Academic Guides program is going to be at the center of the evolution of residential engagement at Duke with the QuadX model. So you'll hear more of that over time, but know that the team sitting here is going to be really involved in ensuring that students who move to West Campus feel that they continue to have access to the essential supports that have defined their first year. So I will, who is? David.
Yeah. And David, you're muted.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So what I would say is unique about to the way advising done is Duke are these specialized advisors that I mentioned earlier that we call directors of academic engagement. And so, as I said, we have one who specializes in each of the academic divisions, the arts and humanities, the social sciences, the natural and quantitative sciences, and then everything related to global and civic engagement opportunities. So if your student, say, is interested in STEM fields, but would like to sit down with one person who can give them a really both broad and in-depth overview of what different departments within the natural sciences and the other STEM fields that do, what they offer to undergraduates, what research opportunities there are, how to get involved in research, what are the kind of the co-curricular opportunities that complement whatever department that they might choose to focus their studies in. Um, um, these are folks that know more about what's available to students in their specialized area than anyone at the university. And what's really, I think, so wonderful is how accessible they are. So a student can go onto the AAC website and schedule a 1-hour meeting with any or all of the DAEs whenever they want. And they will be speaking with somebody who can really share with them based on really both broad and deep knowledge of everything that's available for undergrads within their area. What would make the most sense for for that particular student based on the interests that they have, and to be able to access that kind of wealth of knowledge at the as easy as it is for students to do that is, I think, just an incredible opportunity for students. And if you have a first-year student, you can ask them if they know about the DAEs, if they've made an appointment and met with any of the DAEs in their first year, and if they haven't, to really try to encourage them to go to our website to learn more about what these folks do, and then to schedule with one or more of them. It will be time that will be really valuable for them. And this kind of advising is something that, as far as we know, is really not available at other places outside of Duke, the way that our DAEs work with students.
Thank you for that. I see that there's a question in the Q&A, and so David, are you able
Oh, you want me to speak to that?
to respond to this question? Are you able to see that? So I'll read it for you. It's just what office at Duke would be best to assist a student who is undecided about career planning exploration? So a student who's having trouble, they're undecided about their career plans. Can you talk a little bit about how advisors work? And then could you also maybe say something about the Career Center and referrals to that office as well?
Yeah. So, I would say there would be, a number of resources. The first would be their college advisor. That's the person that they've been assigned to work with. And our college advisors, we work hard to get them to focus on speaking with students about their broader educational goals, personal goals, career goals. And if they haven't reached out to their advisor to set up a time to discuss those things, that would be one really good thing to do. Another really good thing to do would be to schedule a meeting with one of the directors of academic engagement that I've just talked about. So if the student, if they don't know exactly what area they want to pursue at Duke, but they think that they have an interest in the social sciences more broadly, or in the natural sciences more broadly, they should definitely schedule a meeting with the director of academic engagement for that area. And then we have a wonderful career center at Duke. And in terms of thinking about how majors connect to career options, helping students really get a much deeper appreciation for the multitude of career opportunities that are out there for students beyond the 3 or 4 that get the most sort of airtime and buzz among the students themselves. Scheduling with the Career Center, which they can also do online, and beginning to have conversations with somebody who works in that space about the range of opportunities, the opportunities that might be worth connecting with based on their interests and their values. That would be a wonderful thing to do. And then finally, well, not finally, but another wonderful resource for students is something called the Duke Alumni Network. So students can go to this web portal for Duke alums, and they can search by career field what every single alum of Duke, is close to 200,000 now that are in that database, and they can identify, say, I want to see all the alums who are working in healthcare in Washington, D.C. And they can pull them up and they can learn about what that student did while they were at Duke. And then they're able to reach out and to connect with them through that portal to set up times just to learn about what they do, what they enjoy about it, what advice they might give to somebody who's interested in that field. So that's another, wonderful resource for our students. So through one of or multiple, I would encourage students to pursue all of those different sources of advice and support.
Thank you, David. And so I want to have some responses from Lapita and Charlotte as well. So can you both talk with us a little bit about why students should use the services your office or your program provides? Why should students see an academic dean? And then from Charlotte, why should students take advantage of the PSL program?
Sure. So a couple reasons I would say. One, there might be a certain time during a student's career where things may not be going so well, and there are things outside of the classroom that are impacting a student's academics. So in that case, a student has to see their academic dean, and we can help facilitate the academic piece of things. And we can also maybe connect a student to support that they may not be getting. And so we talk to a lot of different offices to support the student, to help during whatever is happening. So that's kind of maybe the not so positive side of why a student would see their academic dean. The positive side, I would say, for most students, I guess, one, a student doesn't really have to see their academic dean. For engineering, the curriculum's online, we have checklists online, we have templates online, and a student really doesn't have to see their dean. Why I think a student should see their dean is because it's a really good good relationship to develop with a university person, with a university professional. And what we do as academic deans, we then become your advocate. So it's really helpful to us to get to know students and what their goals and aspirations are. We can advocate for students when they're doing curriculum planning. And then certainly if something down the line happens that is impacting the student, we've already got a relationship now. And so hopefully it won't be an uncomfortable conversation. We support students in so many different areas, both in the hard times and in the good times. And it's really good to develop that relationship as early as possible so that it's a partnership we go through, and we're there to support students. And the more we know about you, or at least, maybe if it's not positive, the first time we're talking isn't about the not so positive thing. It sometimes makes things go a little bit easier. And I think we can just help the student, be one of the many people that are helping the students on campus. So I think both for the not so positive and the positive, it's really beneficial for a student to get to know their academic dean, whether you're Pratt or whether you're Trinity. That person is part of your network, and they can be a really good advocate for you. And you never know what comes down the pike, and it can be a positive thing.
Yeah, just to add on. So one of the reasons that I think the Peer Success Leaders program is really helpful is the opportunity to talk to students that were previously in your shoes and recently in your shoes. And I think that all of the faculty members and all of the programs are incredible resources, but kind of understanding where to start, sometimes it's really helpful to talk to a student who's been there, who's tried to figure out their major or had a lot of trouble with the class, and having that one-on-one resource is where I found personally to be really helpful as a starting point, and to have a fellow student kind of walk me through what they did, or sometimes with internships or careers, kind of understanding where they got to that point and what resources at Duke they used, I think is really helpful just to kind of have those guidelines and have that input from a fellow student who's going through right now what you're going through. So I think that's incredibly helpful about the Peer Success Leaders program. And we have peer success leaders from all different majors, both Pratt and Trinity, and it's available to all students. So that's really helpful to kind of have that resource for 4 years and be able to really talk to the fellow students around you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Yes, we definitely know that there is so much value to having students have the opportunity to hear from a peer who experience very similar challenges or situations that they have. So we are so excited about our Peer Success Leaders program. You all have been really doing a great job. I want to hear from some of the other offices as well about some of the challenges students experience that your office helps them address. I know Lapita talked a little bit about the academic deans. Reed talked about it from a learning consultant perspective. So I want to start though this response with Debbie and just hearing a little bit more, if you can really talk more about the wellness space or some of those specific challenges that the academic guides support students with.
Yeah, certainly. The academic guides are, as I highlighted as one of our unique features, is we're in the residence halls, which makes it possible for the students to come seek support when it's occurring to them that they have questions, that they're not sure which way to go. Their sensibilities about how things are going is vague, and they just need to sit down with a person who has some perspective to help them figure out what resource should I be going to at this moment, who should I be talking to, how do I articulate my questions for the office that I end up going to. We find that students first start with some transactional question, how do I get an internship? And the conversation we have with them ends up being in large part about just a generalized sense of discomfort or malaise. They're exhausted because they're not getting enough sleep. They're confused because they have competing expectations on them, and they haven't yet figured out how to articulate what they need and want from their education. And so the academic guides help students. We help them with discovering their ambivalence around what's going on around them. We coach them towards determining the next best step for resolving how they're feeling and what's going on. And so we then become a referral space, a sort of, one really great conversation can then lead to a set of referrals to Reed, to David and the DAEs, to Lupita, and to Charlotte. We may be referring to everybody depending on the student and their particular needs, but also to student affairs support systems, the Wellness Center, CAPS, maybe suggesting the student look at what's going on at Wilson Gym to find some group exercise that could help facilitate improving the state of being that they're in. So that's sort of the way that the academic guides serve students best, is by taking a generalized view of you're a whole person, you have a lot of needs, you've come here asking about something that is something you could sink your teeth into, and I have an answer for you, but let's also talk about the bigger issues at play that might be influencing why you don't feel steady in your coursework, you're having a difficult time sleeping, whatever the case may be.
Thank you for sharing that. Reed, is there anything that you can add about the ARC and how they can support students around particular challenges they may be experiencing?
Absolutely. There are a number of challenges that we do see walking through our doors. One of the big ones, especially in particular for first-year students, is the transition from high school into college. It is a different environment in every way. And very often the structures and the scaffolding that existed for them in high school is not as apparent to them that it was there, and they get to college and all of a sudden it's not there. So one of the things that we have the ability to help out with is help them identify what are the pieces they need to put back into place, and identify how can they start to create their own structures. How do they identify how they learned in high school and now apply it in the context of college? One of the things that I often will say to students is that time management is a very popular topic that students come in with. And one of the things I say is it's not something that we magically know when we're born. These are things, these are skills. And very often, one of the things our office does, whether it's through peer tutoring, learning communities, or learning consultations, is make the learning process visible, because it's been a very invisible process up to that point. As I said, that is often, especially for first year students, but the reality is for many students, that process is still invisible throughout the rest of their college career. And so every semester we have an opportunity to really work with them and help them figure out what learning looks like for them. So yes, and I think that manifests itself in time management, or how do you study for a test, and everything in between.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I'm curious, Charlotte, since you're a current student, and I don't know if you can talk a little bit about maybe some of your experiences working with students this past semester, but what have you seen about some of the challenges that you are able to support your peers with, maybe things that they have brought to you as a PSL?
Yeah, coming into Duke, the PSL program is fairly new. I joined last spring, and I think that's when it was created, I believe. And so I leaned on a lot of my peers for that initial start of kind of, how do I start? What classes do I take? There's a lot of questions you want to ask, and you just want to ask someone who's been in your shoes. And so the Peer Success Leader program really allows someone to do that. If they're interested in maybe being pre-med, you can talk to someone who is pre-med and kind of how to navigate that and how to balance classes. And there's really everything that we as Duke students have experienced and can help you, but we've also been trained to kind of lead you to other offices that may be helpful if that's more what they are looking for, and kind of which resources may be the most helpful for their specific situation. So I think it's a really great starting point, but also we're there as mentors and someone who are going through the same thing to kind of answer those questions and be that support system.
Absolutely. Thank you. Lapita, this is an area where I still would like to also hear from you. And then I know that there is a question in the Q&A that you're also going to respond to. So thank you.
Yes, actually, I meant to say I was going to type it and I clicked the wrong button, but I'm happy to respond to that also. The question was about outreach to students who maybe are not doing so well or having some challenges. So, we really try to instill in students the importance of self-advocacy and kind of that recognizing, what's going on. And that's very difficult. And we realize that not all students can. So there are things such as Duke Reach. There's our Duke Student Government has a 2-click system. So a student can submit a concern about themselves or concern about someone else. Anytime a student can, submit a report about themselves to Duke Reach saying, I am having a difficult time. And we've seen a lot more of that over the last few semesters for students who are just having a difficult time for many different reasons. On the academic front, if a student is struggling academically, at least in the first year, midterm grades are required for all first-year students. So the academic deans, the advisors see those academic grades, and we have a system in place where if we see those concerning grades, then we will call in a student for a one-on-one meeting. So in that regard, there is that system to reach out for students, to look out for students. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't catch everyone. And so we do rely on either self-referrals. We've had a lot more instances where friends will not necessarily report, but tell somebody else about a friend who is maybe struggling or having challenges. And so in that way, we can sometimes find out about students. So that was in regard to that question. Kim, what was your initial area that you wanted me to touch on as well?
And you said some of that, Lapita, in your first response, but it was about some of the challenges that students experience that your office helps them to address.
Mm-hmm. Well, our curriculum is very prescribed. The engineering curriculum is very prescribed. So sometimes, students don't come in textbook cases. So maybe there are certain credits that were taken before they arrived at Duke. And so translating that and how it will then look in what classes they are taking at Duke. So we do a lot of that kind of deciphering of the academic curriculum and what to take next and things of that nature. So we do, and I mentioned in my introduction, we do a lot of specialty advising. So students who want to study abroad, it's very possible to do as an engineer, but it takes some planning. So the academic deans help with that. We also run, and I haven't talked about this yet, I'm surprised, for our first year students, we have a new, what we call 360 advising. And so our first year student advising program are assigned a 360 coach, is what we call them. They are faculty advisors, and they are the faculty advisors. They've been advising for many years, or they've been advising for a year. So we have a really good diverse group. And this advisor is meant to also be kind of that one helpful human right when your student gets to Duke, that they are trying to build a relationship with students and trying to help them navigate Duke as they come in, because it can be very daunting. So these advisors, we call them coaches, right now are following students through the first year. We're learning a lot in this new program that we're doing. And so we hope to be implementing a lot of improvements and changes for the next incoming class. But this is meant for the first year, and then students are then handed off to the departments, and they will get their advising from the departments then.
Thank you, Lapita, for that information. So one of the things that I think that we all recognize has been a challenge for our students, and really for all of us in a lot of ways, since we've been living the last couple of years through COVID and dealing with the pandemic. So how have you all been supporting students with engagement and just getting connected with campus resources and activities? I'd really love for our families to be able to hear some of the things that are happening in your spaces with supporting students, with just feeling more connected on campus. And so I want to start this with Debbie, and then David, would love to hear from you, and then Charlotte also would like to hear your response from the student perspective.
Thanks, Kim. I was at this moment typing a response to one of the guest questions, and it's really the same thing I would like to say to everybody. The academic guides send out a letter to the residents of their particular quads on a almost bi-weekly basis. It kind of depends on the rhythms of the semester. But what we're constantly trying to do is just get into the students' email boxes to say, hey, we're here if you want to connect. And then give them some justification for the connection. Say, hey, come see us about what's going on at the Career Center. There's an event taking place that might guide you towards some, how to write a CV effectively. If you want to know more about that, come see me. Or we will remind them, hey, major declarations coming up, and you may have some questions that you don't know who to ask about them. Bring it our way. We can try to connect you. That's how we try to engage with students in a general sense, to elicit one-on-one engagement. But we're also setting up programs in the residence halls in coordination with the Housing and Residence Life team, in coordination with Charlotte and the other PSLs as well. Saying, come hang out with us in the Commons room. We'll talk about what's going on this week over tea and cookies. COVID restrictions obviously applying and getting in the way sometimes. Or we've had programs that are just about generating engagement in the quad, generally outside in the lawn between the dorms, inviting students to write down the thing that went well, or maybe didn't. Actually we focus on what didn't go well for the semester, throw it in the trash, take a positive note from one of us, and head off into their finals. But we're always looking for some way to engage the students as a group and alone. And that's just those are just some of the ways that the academic guides program are seeking to connect. I will say that our desire to connect with students is not about bringing them to the academic guides program. It's trying to send them out to all the other programs. We're seeking to connect students with the array of resources. So we're saying, come to us so we can show you which way to go. We're guiding the students in the best sets of directions.
Yeah, I would say for the AAC is first off, we really try pretty hard to encourage the advisor that your students have been assigned to work with, their assigned college advisor, to connect with one another outside of just the required meetings during registration. And we make funds available for advisors to meet with their students for lunch, for coffee. That's becoming possible again as the COVID situation is starting to get a little better. We have a newsletter that goes out at least every other week to students, both to make them aware of upcoming deadlines, make them aware of opportunities, to remind them about the value of scheduling a meeting with one or more of the DAEs. We do outreach emails, including individualized outreach emails to students from the DAEs about the reasons why they might want to schedule and connect with them. We have drop-in advising at our office 3 days a week, where students can just come in or call and Zoom in to meet with myself, with my associate director, and with one of our other full-time advisors. And then we try to make sure that students know they can also just call our office at any time. And if they can't be connected with somebody right away, that somebody will be certainly able to get back with them at some point that day. So, we do what we can to make it as easy for students to have access to the ways that folks in our office are able to help them. That's it. That's all.
I believe I was next. I think that one, like David was saying, just it's really about connecting with the students and making and reminding them that we are here and we are here to support them. We work with faculty and residents, RAs, and a lot of other individuals to help put on programs. We have office hours and really show the students that we are here. We help with major declaration and kind of advising that, or had an event for first years about kind of planning their classes, and have been really successful with getting attendees there. And I think that the whole premise of the peer success leaders is helpful because we've done it before. And so kind of planning those classes and giving them advice is helpful. And I think it's just about knowing that we're here, being there. And then we also have an email, and on the website, anyone can sign up for a one-on-one kind of consultation with us, and where we can help them and answer all their questions, whether it be clubs, internships, resources, classes to take, interesting professors, and everything else that Duke offers.
Thank you all for sharing that. Most of the responses questions and responses have really been, for all students, right? We haven't, talked about specific groups of students. And so I want to direct this question for our first year students, and just hear from a couple of you related to services that you provide specifically for first year students, or even just thinking about something in your office that you would have used as a first year student. What is something, because I know there are many parents here who have first years, and they are wondering, what can I tell my first year student right now about some of the services? So something that you can share about your office that would be really relevant to a first year. So I'm going to start with Reed. And so maybe for this question, I'll just hear from Reed and Lapita.
Absolutely. And again, I feel like I'm repeating myself here in terms of some of the responses that I'm giving, but the first year experience is unlike many other experiences where the things that you have learned previously, it's clear how they apply to subsequent situations. And again, coming into college, it's a very different experience. And so we really work to reach out to first year students when they arrive on campus for orientation, to ensure that they know we exist, to know that we are there, to provide them an opportunity to connect with us as early as possible, so that they really have the best chance that they can to start getting a handle on some of the things that they're going to find challenging as they work their way through. A lot of our tutoring is offered specifically for the introductory courses, STEM courses in particular. So we really want to make sure that we are helping students gain a foundation at the very beginning of their time at Duke to be able to go very strongly from there on out. Really, a lot of what we see with students coming in is they feel overwhelmed. And with first year students, well, with all of our students, but with first year students in particular, there is a piece that they don't understand what the overwhelmed is. And that's one of the things in learning consultations. We often will have students come in and sit down and say, or virtually or in person and say, I'm just overwhelmed. And we'll unpack that, and giving them the tools to be able to unpack when they feel overwhelmed, what happens, and then how to move forward from that is a big part of, and usually it is, I have all this stuff to do and I don't know how to prioritize, or I don't know how to manage my time with my academics and all of these really cool clubs and activities that I'm now going to be part of because I'm going to do all the things. And so we help them sit down and talk through, okay, so can you do all the things? And if not, where and how do you make the choices? And again, our tutors and also our SAGE learning communities, which provide students an opportunity to work with the same group and with a peer facilitator for the entire semester, are very targeted very much for a lot of the introductory courses that many students will experience in their first year.
Yeah, so I will also repeat and kind of tout our 360 coach program. I think coming into Duke, you have many dedicated folks who are just ready and eager and willing to help students and want to help them navigate. And I think sometimes that can be overwhelming because now you've got a bunch of people coming at you and offering their services and telling you what they, how they can help. And for some folks, that's great. For some, it can be overwhelming also. So I think at least starting with a specifically identified person can be really helpful. And I think that can be the 360 coach. We hope that can be the 360 coach. It could also be the academic dean. And we by no means know how to do everything. I'm not trained to have the conversations that Reed can have with students, but I know that Reed exists and I know that she's a really helpful individual and I can make that personal referral. So I think, either connecting with a 360 coach, connecting with your academic dean can be at least your entry point into helping you maybe identify where might be the best place that a student can gather information. So I think, one of the things I will say, I don't think we did a really good job is informing students and families about the 360 coach. It did come together very quickly for our current class. And so students haven't really caught on, I think, to what a 360 coach, how they can be helpful. And so we're hoping now to spread the word to our new incoming class and help strengthen that relationship so the student is aware of what a 360 coach could do for them. But I would definitely, if they're not a first year student, their faculty advisor, their academic dean are really two good entry points into, if you don't know where to go, if you are just so overwhelmed with all of the services that are available, they're really good places to start. And as I mentioned, even as the first year, developing that relationship early on. So some students, it might be awkward to ask questions later on. And if you have a relationship, then it's not awkward anymore. If we've met once, even if, albeit brief, it's not then our first time meeting the next time. And that can be helpful for a lot of students.
Thank you both for that. As I am looking at some of the questions that are in the Q&A, I think we've gotten most of them answered. And so I want to start trying to maybe close out with our last question that I think would be helpful for folks to hear responses to. And so I'd love to hear from everybody on the panel and just talking about what it is you love about your job and something that you really love about Duke. And so let's go to Debbie, Reed, Lapita, and Charlotte.
Well, everybody is right to answer this question first by saying what they love about Duke are the students. And so let us just stipulate to that. That is one of the things I love, but I also really love my colleagues. We support each other in making sure that students are fully supported. We are not working at cross purposes with one another. Our aim is always to connect, to ask each other, what can you do for the student? What can I do for the student? And then articulate to the student the best set of solutions based on all of the people available to support them. So we hear over and over again, there are so many resources, we don't understand what their value is. The team of people here and beyond, as part of academic affairs and student affairs, we are all committed to making sure students find their way, the way that matters to the individual, not some grand, easily interpreted through a document way. That would be helpful, absolutely. But when it comes down to it, we deal with superstars, and those superstars have super extraordinary desires, goals, needs, and circumstances that we want to support. So I love this team of people for helping me deliver on the promise of supporting those students the best way we can.
I have a feeling you're going to hear some repeats in this answer, because yes, the students, and I don't say that lightly. I have worked in a variety of different universities, and in all honesty, I never imagined myself working at Duke. I'm from Durham, and it was just one of the places that had not been on my radar initially. And as life happens, I found my way here, and 7.5 years later, I'm still here, and I love what I do because I love working with the students, because every single day is a learning opportunity for me. Every time a student walks into my office or hops into my Zoom room, my job is to help them figure out who they are, provide them with the best support I possibly can. And I've always believed in putting the student at the center. And one of the things that has kept me at Duke, surprised me, I'll be completely honest a little bit about Duke, but it is completely true, is that I have seen Duke continually place the students at the center. In my experience, that it has been a transforming experience for many students from a range of backgrounds, from a range of their own previous experiences coming into Duke. And the real commitment, and as Debbie said, especially this team, the Office of Undergraduate Education, to putting the students first and really making sure the students get everything that they need to be able to be as successful as possible, not just at Duke, but also tools that are long lasting that will allow them to really take advantage of everything that comes after Duke. And I miss the days I don't get to meet with the students. I've adjusted to meeting with them on Zoom because it's not quite the same as having them in my office, but it's also really nice because it provides an accessibility to many students that they didn't have. And I have a lot of students who wouldn't necessarily always show for meetings, but they do now because it's just a much easier medium. So yes, I will leave it there and pass it on to Lupita.
Ditto and ditto. I agree. And, you know, being here at Duke, not everybody, but a good percentage of people that you will, any student meet here, staff, faculty, are not from here. So there is something about this place that attracts, you know, there's the Duke name, of course, but the area, the campus, the working conditions, I think we're voted best place to, you know, in the top 10 of best place to work for many, many years. And I know why, because it is a good place because of the people here, the faculty, the staff, everyone in all areas of the university work to make it special for students and work to work together. You know, I'm not technically a part of this area, but I feel a part of this area because we are constantly working together for the students. That's the number one priority, the number one goal. And, you know, everyone has the caring spirit, and our number one goal is to help a student. And it's, you know, it's not always maybe to the outcome that the student wants, but it is always with the student's best interest in heart. And we do everything that we can within our powers to support students and help them be successful here. So that, you know, ditto to what everyone is saying already.
Yeah, just to go off of everyone, I think my favorite part are all of the peers I get to go to school with. I think that the students I've met at Duke are second to none. Everyone is so welcoming. It's such a community, but the intellectual curiosity and the spirit for Duke is incredible, and something that I never thought I would really experience. I was always told it by people who went to Duke, but when you're here, you actually feel it. You feel the support for the community. And then also all of the resources available to us. I myself have used peer tutoring. I frequently go to office hours. I ask my TA a ton of questions. I'm someone who's always trying to seek help. And so having those resources so readily available is incredible and really helpful when you're taking difficult classes, when you want someone to talk to. There's just a plethora of opportunities available. So I would say those two things.
David, were you going to?
Yeah, everybody has expressed, my feelings about it. I really don't have much to add. At the Advising Center, I think what myself and my colleagues particularly enjoy is just really helping students figure out the path through Duke and beyond that makes the most sense for them. We don't have to grade them or evaluate them or anything. We just get to serve as hopefully helpful thought partners to them as they work through in their minds through discussions with us and with others about what they'd like to pursue, what's important to them, and how they can go after it. And echoing what others have said, there's a commitment to that among people on this panel, many hundreds of others, to really making Duke work as well as it can for the students. That is just great to be a part of.
All right. Thank you all so much for being here and for sharing a little bit more about your offices and how you and your teams work to support students. I really appreciate it. And I hope that this information has been helpful to our parents and to our families who have joined us on this evening. So I want to turn things back over to Grace so that she can close things out.
Thank you, Kim. I will not say much more, but I will just echo Dr. Bethay's gratitude for our panelists this morning for your work to support our students and your time this evening to share more about that work with families. For those of you who want to hear again how a panelist answered that question, or maybe you joined late and want to catch up on the beginning of the webinar, we are recording this webinar and it will be posted on our website. If you give us about 48 hours, we can process it and transcribe it and make sure it's online and accessible. So check our website in about 48 hours. Thank you again for your time joining us this evening. We hope this has been helpful. If you have lingering questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to family programs at duke.edu, and have a good evening.